as we start our journey this morning for exercise. All of the fighting cocks beside the road, somewhat fresh in the air because of the heavy rain that we had last night. Something nice about it. It sort of cools the air, but also freshens up the smells of the Philippines as one walks casually around the neighborhood to reflect and just get a bit of exercise, really. I think it's always good to get exercise. But my thought for today is about not being so, I suppose, flippant. Flippant meaning don't just assume that what you think is okay. Because for many, here in the Philippines, we talk about the cultural difference, and that is actually very important because we just take it for granted that what we say is quite acceptable, how we say it is okay, what we do is okay. But for a Filipino, there's a different meaning to everything that we do. We act in a way that is acceptable to us back home, maybe, but it brings into question our motives and reasons for doing it over here. I mean, we always hear about how people, children especially, are so friendly. They come up to you and put their hand up on your forehead, showing respect. And we think nothing of it. But there is you could call it a law, I think it is a law, where hanging around, or I should say mixing with minors is not acceptable here. And people can get the wrong idea. A perfectly innocent conversation with children that gather around you can be reported back to their parents, their guardians, and you can get yourself into quite a bit of sticky water. And of course, they're going to take the side of the young Filipino over you, because we have a reputation when we come here. So many undesirable people are stopped at the airport, deported because of misbehavior, and some end up in the prison system here. Obviously much more serious than just being told to leave or being told that you're persona non grata, which is a very common effect amongst Filipinos. If they get themselves into trouble within their own barangay, they can be banished from the area, maybe even for life, simply because of their behavior towards maybe another family. And that can be devastating for a family that a father, an uncle, a son is told he can't come back home to where he's always known it to be. So it's not just foreigners, certainly not just foreigners. It's one of those things that, if you think about it carefully, you may well be tickle pink, as my mother would have said, chatting to little kids, laughing, joking, maybe sometimes being able to talk in their language. And they, of course, will give you an opportunity for them to talk your language that they've learned in school. It helps to give them more confidence in being able to understand the language they're learning at school. Hello guys, how many houses are you building? It looked...
Rest house.
Is it going to be a house or for the animals?
House. This is the house of animals. Goat.
What kind of animal in there?
Goat.
Goat house. So that's the goat house.
Eating house.
And what about this one?
Rest house.
A rest house. So I can come and stay there?
Yes.
How much per night?
10,000 for you because you are...
Because I'm a white man.
Abound.
Charot.
Marunong ka mag-Tagalog eh. Pinahirapan pa ako
Yeah.
mag-English.
I think you're talking a load of punyata.
No. It's bad word.
Maybe discount for senior.
Ay, no senior here.
Maybe 5,000 per night. You're working hard.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
Good night, sir.
You see, you can strike up a conversation with those around you just by simply observing what they're doing and relating to what they're actually able to achieve in your language. Most of them who work in some form of construction can understand most English. That's why they get the work. And you can see he's building a rest home or a rest room. The other one, which I was wondering what it was going to be, is a goat house. Very expensive goat house by the looks too. So I think they probably have a source of revenue that we maybe don't know. Look how idyllic it is to have a garden, even if it's overgrown. How cool that is, almost like living in the jungle. A simple life. You know, it's a bit like, you remember that series, The Good Life? There was a little bit over the top, living in somewhere like Epsom, I think it was, or I'm not quite sure where it was filmed, but they were living an alternative lifestyle. It was a bit of a comedy. And in a way, some of you guys who come over here actually want to live your lives a little bit like that. You see, that reminds me of a place. That's a scene to me, like in New Zealand, a little bit like Titirangi or maybe up the Marlborough Sound in the bush. And those that recognise those places would know what I mean. It's always a lovely opportunity after the rain to wander along and just casually walk through what is a little bit of nature here in the Philippines. And as I do my 180 back again, you'll notice that the fields are starting to fill up with water. A time of the year when now the land turns to rice growing. I've noticed in the market that there's a lot more local rice on the market that is around the 40 peso per kilo, which is interesting because most of the, what I would call the premium grade, a few months ago was around the 50-55 per kilo mark. So there must be a somewhat glut in the market for locally grown rice, which is good because that helps with the economy of scale, so to speak, and the locals can afford to maybe buy a little bit more extra rice for the leaner times of the year. But this is a time when clearly rice is in abundance and a time where the latest crops are being planted. But what I was talking about earlier about being aware of one's environment and what you can find yourself in is important, that we all remember that coming to the Philippines is not all just about pretty women, happy faces from the kids, and cheap accommodation with buying your food in the market cheaply. It's about understanding the way the place ticks. understanding the boundaries that are placed on not just yourself, but all people here. I mean, uncles have to behave, brothers have to behave, and foreigners have to behave in a certain way, because what we might know to be a bad practice, for some it's quite normal here. Sadly, but it is. I mean, there are children, and I say children, near where I'm staying, that find themselves at 15 years of age, pregnant, 4 months pregnant, my goodness, at 15 years of age. Now, of course, who's the father? But quite often the father is just a 15, 16-year-old boy. And we all know what little boys do. It's called being adventurous, maybe doing things you shouldn't. But here it's not really frowned upon. Sure, the neighbours will probably say their little bit of gossip, but it's another mouth to feed, and it's another blessing for the family. They see the opportunity to have maybe a rebel girl suddenly becoming a woman and a mother, changing her ways, maybe becoming a little bit more responsible. It's a big learning curve for somebody to have to go through. And it's sad, but it's so often the case in Southeast Asia, where the age of consent is low, but now it's, as we should all think of, it's 18. Don't believe everything you hear about 12 and 16, that's rubbish. The laws are quite clear. You have to be 18 to be consenting adults. So guys, don't play with fire. Remember that life is too short, especially for us. We have to be sure that we stay on the right side of what could be a disaster for some. So that's my thought for today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and say hello to the dog that likes to bark at me. I just don't think he likes me much. He always seems to, if I turn around and look like I'm going for him, he backs off. But that's life. So if you like this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And thank you all for joining my live last night, my simulcast live. I hope you enjoyed it, and that you'll come and join me on many more that I will be doing. So you all have a lovely day. I'm going home for breakfast. I'll see you there. Bye-bye.